Hello and welcome to my channel Glen. My name's Glenn. I like to share with you what I learn in the world of cryptocurrency as I go through it. So I haven't done a video for a week or two. That is because one, I've been away for a week. I've been at Centre Parks, which was quite nice. The country in the UK is going into lockdown as of tomorrow. So I've had loads to sort out leading up to that regarding the properties that you guys have seen me renovating. I needed to get the solicitors and all the paperwork. As well as that, I'm actually buying a house for myself to move to. So I'm currently halfway through sort of a move, which if any of you are out there that have bought or sold a house for yourself or your family in the UK, it is a mission. It takes about 3 to 4 months for the whole thing to go through, and I'm right towards the end of that process. So I've been really sort of bogged down lately. So doing videos about cryptocurrencies have just been sort of like the last thing on my mind lately. So hopefully you guys can appreciate that. But anyway, here we are today. So I always said that I will do a video if something really interests me, and I've actually been trying to do this video now for about 3 or 4 days, and in that time things keep fluctuating so much. Currently there's the US elections going on and cryptocurrencies are just bouncing. Like, I haven't seen it being this volatile for a little while actually. For the last year or so, Bitcoin has really sort of, it's going up and then it's dropping like $500 to $700 in like one swoop, and then it's going up again $500-600. So we've seen obviously the altcoins, which obviously follow Bitcoin, really sort of bounce in between though, like big figures as well. I mean, swap token for example, you know, I thought that was a good buy at sort of 30 cent. It's now currently at 17 cent, but then it will jump up to 22 cent now. I mean, that to me is huge. That's, you're talking about a 20% swing. So if you put the money in at the right time, you could cash out, and you could cash out at 21 cent, and you've made 20% on your money, which is awesome. So we're seeing opportunities, I would say, to make money, whether you're depending on your appetite of risk. But there's one asset that I have to say now has probably been my best performing asset of 2020. We're getting quite close to the end of the year, and I can say this with certainty because I know how much money I've put into it and how much I ended up with. What is that asset, and what have I done to sort of get to the stage I'm at with this asset? Well, we're going to look into that right now. So let's get right into the video. So before we talk about the main topic of today, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's been smashing the like button for me. I really do appreciate it. It shows that you guys like the content that I produce. So I really do appreciate it. We take like a level-headed approach here. I'm just sitting in my shed at the end of a garden. I have no agenda. I have no sales pitch to give you. It's just my personal opinion on subjects. If you're new to this channel, click subscribe. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers now, so this year's been a good year for me in terms of my YouTube channel. And then also I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's been joining the Team Glen group chat. We've always been sort of at 150, 200, and I think now we're at close to hitting 400 members, which again is huge. Good conversation every day about cryptocurrencies and people helping each other out if they're stuck with MetaMask or crypto.com or their bank or something like that. There's loads of good conversation going on there. No shilling, no scam. So if you want to be a part of that, go to Telegram and search for Team Glen. If you want to chat to me on a more personal level, then you can find me over at Twitter, which is just at Glen. And obviously you can always, as always, comment down below. So that's enough of me shilling my social media stuff. What's my best performing asset so far of 2020? Now, as you guys know, I bought one whole Bitcoin and I stored it away. I also bought some Ethereum, and I also own crypto.com. I own some Hex. I own some Cellulus, and I have a small amount in Nexo as well. So, but very small amounts actually. My main holdings now, as of recording this video, are probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hex, and CRO. What has happened? What's been my best performing asset? So if we look at Bitcoin, I bought in around $8,500 to $9,000. It's now currently at sort of $13,500. So there obviously is an increase of like 30%, 40%, something like that, which is awesome. You know, I can't knock that as brilliant. Ethereum yeah, from when I bought it to now, again, you're looking probably maybe a 20% increase. And then CRO has actually done pretty badly. That's been my worst performing asset. For a long time, I was saying how consistent CRO was, just continuously going up, which was awesome to see. It went from, I remember I bought in at like 12 cents and it went all the way up to about 19 cents per coin. And obviously because, you know, where if you refer someone using this card, like if you use my link down below, you get 50 quid of CRO and I get 50 quid of CRO. I've had quite a few referrals from that, so thank you very much to everyone that uses my link down below. I've always been honest and transparent with what I get, what you get. That has done really badly recently. It had a big drop in price, and they seem to be restructuring things all the time. And recently, I think the way that they've done a restructure and shuffled things around hasn't pleased investors. They've upped the amount of CRO you need to stake for the better cards now. I think they've lowered the interest rate that you receive, and which was quite high, to be fair. I think it was at 20% on CRO tokens, so now it's something like 16%. But since that happened, the price has just gone down, 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 and now currently, as of recording this video, it's about 7.5 cents. So that has almost dropped 60% in the last few months. So CRO really, really struggling. So I don't know if there's anything malicious going on or anything like that, but that's just, I'm reporting on what's happened to me. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment down below. So that leaves my last token, and that is Hex. Now, I know that some of you out there absolutely despise Hex with a passion. You hate me talking about it. But I'm just saying, like, what has happened. You know, I'm just reporting facts. Hex has really, really, especially recently, been one of my best performing assets. It's absolutely huge, the amount that it's gone up by lately. You can actually see on crypto.com, it's actually one of the highest trending searches coins at the moment. And you can see that it's currently now over 1 cent. I was going to do a video when it hit over 1 cent, but I actually thought, oh, that's going to drop. It actually went all the way up to sort of 1.4 of a cent, say, and it did drop back down to 1 cent. But forgetting that, obviously you guys know that I bought in when it was 0.001, so 10% of a cent. So for me, this has 10x'd, and I invested, just so you guys know I'm not chatting complete garbage. If I go over to my personal YouTube channel, you can check this out yourselves. If you go down to videos and go all the way sort of back about 6 months ago to April time, you'll see that my very first video on Hex was this one here, and it was around a time when I was looking at sort of interest bearing projects. So you can see that I was talking about Exodus, earning DAI token, but very quickly within a week the APR literally, it didn't even half, it like 10th. It went down 10x. I think I was getting something like 12% APR and it went down to like 2% APR, something like that. So I wasn't too happy with that, but it's actually APY. It's always a fluctuating figure, like every day, depending on the demand and stuff. So I wasn't too happy with that. Hex, on the other hand, when I was looking into Hex has a set amount of interest rate that you will earn minimum. So it doesn't matter about demand and fluctuations in price. It has a set figure, and it's something like 3.6% or something like that. I'm sure a lot of you hexagons out there will comment furiously, no Glenn, it's this amount, you got it wrong. But just off the top of my head, I think that was what it was at the time, and it has remained that. So my very first video was, is Hex a scam? And this was in a period where I was doing my own research, like I recommend to everyone else and every other YouTuber does, says make sure you do your own research. This was a time when I was doing research in the project, so obviously I was talking about it in my videos, and obviously people were commenting and saying, have you seen this, have you mentioned this, you've said this wrong and it's actually this. And so I was learning as I was talking through my YouTube videos, and then I actually done a review of the Hex platform after I'd used it for a couple of weeks, and then obviously I did a few videos here showing you how to stake, how to emergency end stake. So if you want to get your money out, I always judge projects on how easy it is it's always easy to put your money in. It's normally not so easy to get your money out. So that was a big thing for me, and Hex, well, you know, you could get your money out quite easily, so I was really happy with that. And I even talked about it 5 months ago, hitting its all-time high, which at the time was something like 0.00, I'm going to say 3 or 4 or something like that. So it's like not even 0.5% at that point. So really, in the last 5 months, I actually talked about in a video saying that I think that Hex has the potential to get to about 1 cent per coin, and I believe that it could be in the top sort of 5 or top 10 cryptocurrencies on the market, because I saw it had more potential and more worth, and in my opinion, and I know some of you really love some of your coins out there, I personally could see more potential in this coin than I could in XRP, Bitcoin Cash, Chainlink, Binance Coin, Litecoin, Polkadot. I could see more potential. There was more, it having a better use case than a lot of these tokens that are currently in the top 10 cryptocurrencies. And so far, you may think, well, Glenn, it hasn't hit there yet, and you would be right. And that is because on crypto.com, even though that the coin's hit over 1 cent now, its actual market cap would put it somewhere in the top 5, I believe, 5 or 6. Let's just go over to hex.live, and according to this, if it was listed properly, it would actually be number 6 on the cryptocurrency exchanges. Now, the reason that they won't list it at number 6 is because its overall circulating supply can't be determined, because after this phase of raising funds, so as you guys know, you can go over to the Transform lobby and you can send Hex your Ethereum, and it will spit out Hex, an equivalent amount of Hex for every single Ethereum that's put in it, that's mathematically worked out, so it's even, fair and transparent. That happens every single day. Once we hit 351 days, there's going to be this event called the Big Payday. Now, that's an amount of coins that have been accumulated over the course of the year, and it's going to be shared out between every person that is currently staking. So anyone who has these stakes that stake past, I believe it's the 19th of November, so in about 2 weeks time, then you will actually qualify for the Big Payday, which means you receive a bonus. So if you emergency end stake between now and then, I think you're crazy, to be honest, because obviously we have this Big Payday event. Now, some of you out there may say, well, Glenn, once the Big Payday happens, there's going to be a big drop in price, but we'll put that on hold a second. So once that happens and all the coins are minted, there's no more fundraising, there's no more Transform lobby, all of this goes away, and all you have is a project that has a set amount of interest rate over the course of all day, every day, the whole time it exists. Then you have a set amount of supply, you have a set amount of circulating supply and what's available. There's nothing else to be made. So this means that hopefully when that happens, these websites can't ignore that this has a certain amount of total supply, a total amount of circulating supply, and depending on the price of on that day, that will be its inherent market cap valuation. So because it can't, the website can't determine, or coin market cap and CoinGecko and all of those, because they can't determine what the actual total supply is of the token, what they're doing is they're reverting to a system where Hex cannot get past the rank of 201. It can't get into the top 200, and that's a safety measure that they have. Whether you agree with it or not, that's not for me to decide. But currently it's at 201. Once the company Crypto.com, which is in theory Binance, once they can determine what the total supply is, and it's set in stone, then you would imagine that it's going to actually break past this 201 and it's going to shoot right into the top 10. It's going to be right there with XRP, and I would imagine that's going to cause a big pump in Hex valuation as well, because people will think, hang on a minute, why is this coin just all of a sudden overtaken Bitcoin Cash, XRP, Chainlink, you know, and people are going to be, well, they're going to be a little bit behind. They're going to be like, I thought this was a scam, why is all of a sudden it's really high? So it's going to be interesting time over the next 2 weeks with what's going to happen with Hex. So that's the actual supply of Hex and what I believe is going to happen to it. I do think that we are going to see it, whether it's in the, you know, it might drop in price, but I believe it will be in the top 10 by the end of November/December. It will be in the top 10. And then from there, obviously, it's going to fluctuate in line with all the other cryptocurrencies, as they all do. They're going to follow in suit with Bitcoin. But Hex has been slightly different over the last 5 months because it hasn't followed Bitcoin's trend. If we look at the trend of Bitcoin and we look at the trend of Hex, you can see here that it sort of plateaued at the beginning and it had a big run up in price. Then it sort of almost plateaued, and I know that there are sort of 30-40% swings here, I'm not denying that, but you've got to say typically it bounced between 0.003 of a cent and 0.006 of a cent. It was in that channel for quite a while, and it got listed on an exchange, like a large exchange, and it just shot up in price. Like, it was crazy. It just really had a big boom, and now we're having sort of like a 30-40% drop, which I thought would happen. Does this bother me? No. The reason for that is because initially when I invested in, which was about here, about this sort of time, April, 20th of April, about that sort of time, for me, I actually put in £800 of my own money into Hex, and I disclosed this and shared it with you guys, as I always am, very transparent and clear, probably a bit too much transparent, but I put in £800, and as you can see, quite quickly after, it went up in price. Now, it doesn't, when you look at the chart like that and you look at the figures, you're talking it went from 0.002 of a cent to all the way to 0.05 or whatever it is. So I actually quite quickly, my £800 turned into about 2,500, and I sort of said to my wife, and she said, why don't you just cash out your £800 that you put into it, and then that way it doesn't matter what happens to the project? And I was like, oh yeah, but, and I was really hesitant. Obviously the greed in me wanted to keep all the Hex coins, or what if they keep going up? But she was right, as women most of the time are. I took out the £800, and since then it has not bothered me. It's amazing how detached you become from a project when you haven't got your life savings or your own personal money invested in it. So I took the £800 out, and that may seem like, okay, so Glen's just broken even, but it's more than that, because now I'm emotionally detached from Hex. If the price goes up 50%, it doesn't bother me too much. If the price goes down 50%, it doesn't bother me too much. If at the end of the big payday I receive 3 or 4 times the amount of Hex tokens, the coin goes to, let's say it goes to zero. Let's say it absolutely goes to zero. Am I going to lose any sleep? No. So it's not going to bother me at all. So I don't get too swept up. And even when it had its recent run up, I have to give a shout out to my buddy River, actually, who watches these YouTube videos. He actually sent me a message and said, Glen, have you seen the price of Hex? And I said, no. He said, it's gone past 1 cent. And then by the time I checked it, it was at like 0.0012 of a cent. So it was up like 1.25 cents. And I said, geez, what's happened? So then I had to look online and I had to do a bit of research, and I said, oh, it's been listed on an exchange. And he said, oh, that makes sense. So it just goes to show that I'm not checking the price of this every day, every couple of days. Sometimes I go weeks without even thinking about it. So I really am emotionally detached from this project. It's great if it goes up. I think everything that I predicted would happen is happening. And a few of you have messaged me and said, hey Glen, I listened to you with the Hex and I'm really glad I did. I've made my money back. It doesn't mean I'm some sort of guru or know exactly what I'm talking about, but when I looked into Hex at the beginning, I was looking at the way that it was the way it was, how transparent and clear it was. And I've learnt this a lot doing my own project recently, obviously with Ether Homes. There has to be something said for when someone comes out and releases a project that is, its main core is to raise money. When people say, yeah, but you know, we'll think about that later, and we'll do that later, and oh yeah, that may change, and there's going to be a voting mechanism and stuff like that. Well, actually, when someone actually says, no, this is what's going to happen, and on this date this will happen, and this is how the code is, you can verify the code yourself. You can check the website, you can check the Ethereum wallet address. When someone does that, it really makes you think, that person doesn't seem to have anything to hide. When I saw that and saw how Hex works and how mathematical it was, like the way that the interest rate is worked out and how the stakes work out and how you can actually just withdraw your money whenever you like. You can literally mint your coins and withdraw it whenever you like. There isn't any like, oh no, you're locked in for a week, 30 days. And if we look at projects like CRO, and I'm not beating up on CRO, I still think they're offering an amazing product. But I have a stake with CRO for it's a decent chunk. It's actually about it was £2,000. I had about £2,000 in CRO, and now that's obviously worth about 900 quid now. And I can't get my stake out. I can't withdraw it in any way, shape or form. So Hex actually beats that, I suppose, because at least you can take advantage of big movements up. I've been really impressed with Hex. In the time that this has been operating, bearing in mind everyone on YouTube was calling it a scam. It has never had a hack. It has never had any downtime. It has never had any bugs. It's never had any manipulations. It hasn't performed any rug pulls. It's very clear and transparent. This is how much the interest is. This is how much the staking rewards are. This is how much you'll receive on this given date. I've just been really impressed with Hex, and I feel like everyone that was shouting, oh, it's a scam from the beginning, were really doing people and listeners a disservice, really, because there's been a lot of projects out there that have done those things. And, you know, you look at most YouTubers, and when they're talking about these projects, they're saying, oh, you know, check out, I don't know, ethminer.com, or I don't know, I'm just making stuff up, but they do a whole video on it, and literally a few months later it's like, where is it? It's nowhere to be seen. So there's lots of those going around, and Hex so far has stood the test of time. It's been operating now for a year, and it has not fluctuated. There's been no changes, no amendments. They've not said, oh yeah, well, I've listened to the community and now I'm going to up the interest rate or lower the interest rate, or we're going to start offering bigger rewards. So far, everything that was set out at the beginning has come to truth. So that speaks volumes in the world of cryptocurrency. The issues that people tend to have with Hex that I've noticed, and I've mentioned this many times before, are either they don't like Richard Hart. So that's one big thing. They don't like him. They don't like how abrupt he is, how obnoxious he is, or whether, you know, because he, you know, whatever your view is on him, you don't like his cockiness, you don't like how clever he is, you don't like how, you know, he was talking about Bitcoin all those years ago, now he's changed his mind and says Ethereum's better. For whatever reason, that is one reason why people don't like Hex, and that's Richard Hart. So unfortunately, we can't decouple Richard Hart from the project because he's the creator and the founder and the main figurehead of Hex, so we can't do anything about that. The other issue is that where is all the Ethereum going? Now, Richard Hart has said, you know, it's going to an Ethereum address, and he can't disclose where it's going to or who's got access to it and what it's going to be used for going forward. Now, if this transform lobby is to be believed, there is many millions pounds worth of, or dollars worth of Ethereum locked in this wallet. You know, we're talking at the minute, there is about 20,000 Ethereum going into this lobby per day. So you do 20,000 times, what's Ethereum at the minute? $380, is it? Let's say $350. That means there is about £7 million or dollars, sorry, worth of Ethereum being sent into this Ethereum address per day. So you would think that, you know, if Richard Hart was just aiming for, right, I'm going to make £10 million, then I'm going to do a runner. Well, he achieves that almost per day at the minute, or whatever. This project so far is raising tens, if not hundreds of millions of pounds. I can't even think. I'm sure someone somewhere has done the maths. But this project is raising a lot of money. And then on top of that, you've got to say, obviously, the Hex, Richard Hart and the development team of Hex, they also own, obviously, Hex tokens. And the Hex tokens have, you know, 2,000x since their launch. So you've got to say they're making a lot of money that way as well. Now, does this mean that he's going to use that money to promote Hex, to market Hex, to maybe build a better website, better platform, maybe his own blockchain? Who knows? Who knows? He's not saying. But that is another gripe that people have. They just don't know where the money's going and what it's being spent on. And it does actually make me laugh, because if you look at any project, right, if you buy Chainlink at $10, at some point somewhere you're buying or selling that, whether it's you're exchanging it for Ethereum, Bitcoin, or just US dollars, at some point you're giving them that money. And you've got to look at these projects, and it makes me wonder why people don't look at them and say, what's Chainlink doing with all the money? You know, what's XRP doing with all the money? What's Bitcoin Cash doing with all the money? What are they doing? Like, what are these companies doing with all that money? Is it giveaways, airdrops, marketing, paying themselves bonuses? Are they giving it to the community in some way? Like Cellulus Network, they give 80% of all their revenue back to the stakers of Cell Token. So this mentality of, I want to know how he's making money and what he's spending it on, does not bother me in the slightest. I don't care how Bill Gates made his money. I don't care what deals he done in the past. We just know he's a very clever man, and he had a really good product at the time. If we look at Steve Jobs, he created a great product. And if you look at iPhones, you know, they charge £1,000, $999, $1,200, whatever for their phones. But yet, I know an Apple employee, and he was telling me that the staff get charged £500 for an iPhone. So you have to say, okay, well, they're not going to sell to their employees at a loss, are they? So they're still making a profit at that £500. So what are Apple doing with the other £500? But we don't care about that. We just want the product. Now, Hex is a complete product. We're not, Richard Hart hasn't said, and this is what he's trying to avoid doing. If he turns around and says, yeah, with all this Ethereum that we've raised, I'm going to create, I don't know, a blockchain, or I'm going to offer this amazing rewards program or something like that, then people are going to be like, oh yes, the price is going to go up, right, I'm going to go all in on Hex. And then he's promising something, which means he commits foul to one of the, is it Howey test in America, so therefore he could be liable to pay penalties and fines. So he's keeping it all very hush-hush, not making any promises. He's basically reiterating the same story over the year. God knows how many times he must have repeated himself. But he has basically said, Hex is a complete product, you're investing in it, this is what you get back at the end of it, that's it, it's done. And then when people say, yeah, but where's the Ethereum going? He's saying, that's none of your business. So we'll have to see what Richard Hart does next with that money. He keeps talking about things like helping people prolong their lives, so like creating something or helping do something where he can prolong his life so that he lives past 80, 90, 100, whatever. Anyway, that's he's doing. I don't care. All I care about is that there's this platform that works, that's never been hacked, it's never had any downtime, and it's offering me constant rewards. So let's have a look at my position in Hex so that you guys can watch this and say, okay, this guy's got a load of skin in the game, like, so he's gonna shill it, but I'm not, you know, I'm being honest here, and I've tried to stay clear of doing too many videos on Hex. Because of that reason, I don't want people to think I'm a Hex channel or I'm a Hex expert and I can help them out with their Hex issues and stuff like that, because I'm not that guy. There's plenty of people that have done that and have been really successful with that. So Hexologist has been really popular. He's a really cool guy. You've got Crypto Coffee. There was who's that guy? Good Texture. He was just talking about Hex the whole time. Obviously, Richard Hart himself. There's plenty of others, and I can't remember them all. But there's this community now of people where they all have, newbies have someone to go to listen to learn from, and obviously they're building up their fan base and user base and stuff as they're going along. Will that still be there after the referral bonus is taken away? Who knows? Obviously, I'll still report on Hex because I'm not in it for referral bonuses. I'm just talking about it because I really like the project. But these are my stakes here. This is what I have. You can see here my principal, so you can see exactly how many Hex that I have. And then it has my total at the bottom here. These are my total shares that I own. The earlier you stake, the more shares that you get. The share price is always increasing. Then we have the big payday in this column here. So you can see that on the big payday, I should get this amount of Hex. And then we have the amount of interest. And then if I want to, I can end all of these stakes. It means that I forfeit a lot of these bonuses, especially the big payday. But you can get your money out now if you want to. And this is what I like about Hex. If you look at it, it's all numbers. It's almost like an Excel spreadsheet of you put this much money in, multiplied by this many days, multiplied by this interest rate, you will receive this at the end. And that's what I like about it. I'm a big fan of Excel spreadsheets, and whereas a lot of projects, you don't know what you're going to get. You think about that, that's very odd. If you go to the bank and you put in, I don't know, £10,000 into an ISA account, they will tell you what interest rate you're going to get, and you can work out from that what you're going to earn a year. And the bank normally, they'll have a stipulation unless the Bank of England base rate changes. So in that regard, Hex operates like a bank. You can put in exactly what you want to put in, and you can put in how long you want it in there for. Now you can set this for 1 day, 10 days, 100 days, 1,000 days. Some people are doing like 15-year long stakes. So there's people out there with real belief in Hex to stake for that long. And it works it all out for you here. So you've got the longer pays better, the bigger pays better, effective Hex, and then you've got the total share price of how many shares you're going to actually own. And then obviously how much you're going to end up with. And then it works out for you based on that, what APY you're going to receive. So this begs the question, which a lot of you, unfortunately I've been rambling for 35 minutes now, is it too late to get involved in Hex? And my honest belief is no, it's not. Why do I think that? Because, one, we have this big payday event coming up. When this big payday event happens, the amount of Hex that you hold in total will be multiplied by the big payday. So let's just say that let's use Bitcoin as an example. Let's say there was an event happening in the Bitcoin cycle where if you own 1 Bitcoin and you stake it past a certain date, you end up with 2 Bitcoin. In that, you may have bought the first Bitcoin for, say, $10,000. You now have 2 Bitcoin, but let's say the price drops 50%. Well, this Bitcoin's worth $5,000 and this Bitcoin's worth $5,000. So your initial investment, you still have $10,000, but you own 2 of the assets. To me, that's a win-win. I would rather own 2 Bitcoin than 1 Bitcoin. And I'm sure many of you watching will be like, well, yeah, duh. Well, this would involve you currently, if you was to invest in Hex now, you could buy into Hex and you could own 1 Hex and have 2 Hexes by the big payday. I don't know that's the exact maths, but you know, you would end up with more Hex than you have at the initial buy-in. Now, the price could drop, and I'm actually predicting that the price will drop. You're going to have a mass amount of people with, you know, double, triple, 4, 5x the amount of Hex that they initially started off with. And all the people that have Bitcoin addresses, they can actually claim Hex for free. But again, another clause that has been implemented into Hex is that they can't just cash out the first day of the big payday. They have to wait exactly 1 year from the day that they claimed their free Bitcoin. So if you was to put your Bitcoin address here, it would come up at the bottom saying, you know, you're on the date of the snapshot, you had this amount of Bitcoin, so you're entitled to this amount of Hex. And when you click claim, you have to wait exactly 1 year later, and then you can get that money for free. So that means that unless someone claimed their Bitcoin the exact first day of Hex being launched, which I'm sure people like Richard Hart and some of the founders did, unless you did that, you're not going to be able to cash out on the big payday. So a lot of you out there, Hex has really only picked up steam over the last 3 months or so. So you're talking in another 9-8 months, there's going to be a lot of people free claiming their Hex, which means they're always going to be dumping their coins or selling it, unless obviously the price keeps going up and then they think, oh, actually I might just keep the Hex token because they keep going up in price. So you're going to have a lot of people dump in when that happens. But now that is spread out over a year, not just one specific date. Then you have the big payday. So the big payday is only paid to people that stake past the big payday. So a lot of you out there obviously are going to stake like me, and I'm not saying that I've done anything different. I've set a lot of my stakes so that they end probably a day or 2 days after the big payday. I just put in any random date or whatever. And there is one long stake that I've done. Now, if the project does exactly what it says on the tin, you receive your Hex tokens and you think, great, I'm going to cash it out now and I'm going to go and buy a hot dog token or whatever it was that just dumped recently, you may come back to Hex and think, do you know what? Hex done really well for me over that period of 6 months. I'm just going to put another stake in there and just leave it again. And at that point, there won't be this transform lobby. You will have to buy Hex from either another person holding Hex or through an exchange. They're going to be your only two methods. So we may see the price of Hex start fluctuating on the market. So this means that unless there is, I would say, more percentage dropped on the big payday than you receive in more Hex tokens, you're always going to either break even or you're going to be up. In my opinion, you may lose out. And obviously I'm going to report on the big payday. I'll do a video about it saying, look, this is how much it's dropped or whatever. Who knows, it may go up in price. I don't know, that's wishful thinking. But I do believe that there is going to be this sell-off on the big payday, so we will see what happens with that. I think that now is the best time to invest in Hex. And why is that? Because I believe that I know mathematically it's the best time to get in, because the share price always cheaper today than it is tomorrow. The share price is always increasing, so the longer you leave it, the more expensive the Hex tokens the share price will be, so the less rewards you will receive going into your stakes. So say you stake for 1 whole year, someone who staked, you know, from 6 months ago versus someone who staked today for 1 year, if they both ran exactly 1 year, the earlier one would have always received more share of Hex token rewards than the person who staked later. I hope that makes sense. So the share price is always getting more expensive, and we can see that here. So if we put in here stake T shares, you can see here 0.9 or whatever, whereas if we look back at my original one, I'm getting 21 there. That's with a stake of 200,000 Hex. So let's put in here 200. You'll see there that you're actually getting less shares I was getting when I first staked this way back in April. So the share price is always getting more expensive. So that's one reason why I know for fact that it's better to get involved in Hex now. And then, like I say, you have this big payday. So if you just mathematically work out how much Hex you're going to receive. Now, if my maths is correct, I've got all in total 371,000 Hex. According to this, on the big payday, I'm going to receive 945 plus my initial deposit and plus some interest. So it works out that I'm going to end up with probably over 1 million Hex. Now, obviously, if they're all worth 1 cent, and currently the market is, my Hex is worth, was it $4,000? There you go, $4,200. It's just gone up 10% in price, really, while we've been recording this video. That means that potentially the amount of Hex that I'm going to receive, if it was to stay the same price, I should triple the amount of money that I have stored in it as well. So then you're talking like a $15,000. This is, bearing in mind, this is all from a £800 initial investment that I then took out. So I just left what I'd earned already leading up to that point. So to me, this is why I can hand on heart honestly say this is my best performing asset. I have had zero of my own money for most of the year stored in this, and yet I'm now talking about potentially receiving something like between $12,000 and $15,000 worth of an asset. So this is really just like blown my mind, and this was exactly what Richard Hart said at the beginning. If you go back and watch his earlier videos, he said people are going to accumulate massive amounts of wealth if they invest in Hex now by the time the big payday happens. And he kept reiterating this, and people were just like, yeah, whatever, big payday, whatever, you know, what's Richard Hart talking about now? And he kept he's repeatedly just keep repeating the same story over and over again, and now it seems to be coming true. And there has to come a point where people look at it and say, do you know what, he was right with that, and Hex is right, and Hex isn't a scam, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. There has to come a point when that happens. I mean, let's just say that Richard Hart receives all that Ethereum and he goes off and he buys an island with it, and we never hear or see from him again. Obviously the Hex price would go down, but actually as long as the code is still running, it should just still do what it's doing now. It doesn't need anyone to operate, because he done exactly what it said on the tin from the day that he released it, not a year after that it was invented, and once he raised some money then he made some changes to the blockchain. It does exactly what it said on the tin day one, and it has just continued to do that. And if it's left alone to its own devices, and I know this sounds very harsh, a lot of people were like, well, you know, Hex has Richard Hart, and I was thinking the best thing that could happen is if Richard Hart passed away. I know that sounds very harsh, and I'm sure if he watched or heard this he'd be really angry, but if he passed away and Hex was still going and kept doing what it's doing, and it just did what it implemented, and no one can stop it or shut it down, I would imagine this would go up like Bitcoin. You know, there's a lot more of it. It would never be worth as much as Bitcoin, and I don't think it deserves to be worth as much as Bitcoin, because it stands on Bitcoin and Ethereum shoulders. But I do think it has a unique place in the market where it's offering something that no other token, and I don't think any other creator could create and actually withstand that amount of heat for that long, and Richard Hart has done that. So I've got to take my hat off to him. I'm really grateful so far of my investment. When I was recording this video, it was currently at, like I say, 0.014 or something like that, and it started to drop in price quite a bit, and I think all the cryptocurrencies did that day. And I thought, oh, you know, I've just recorded a 45-minute long video, and now the price is going to drop like 40-50%, and obviously I didn't know where it was going to end, so I sort of thought, right, I'll leave it and I'll wait to see what happens. And it stopped about 1 cent, and now we're heading back up again. So this really has been whether you like it or not, this has been the best performing asset that I have invested in from the beginning. Now I'm sure some of you out there are going to be like, well, I invested in fucking Chainlink when it was 50 cent and now it's $10. Great. And a lot of you out there probably have stories like that, and you have to look at it and say, okay, well, where did you buy your cryptocurrency? At what price did you buy it? And then also, what is it worth now? I mean, if we look at, I'm using Chainlink as an example, and I don't hate Chainlink. I think Chainlink's doing really good things. But I mean, if we look at the chart here, very, very similar to Hex actually, stagnated, went up, and then it bounced within a range, and then it had a big breakout, and now obviously it's retraced sort of probably 50% since then. And I would imagine on the big payday, Hex is going to do something like this. But if you look at that and say, well, you know, was Chainlink a good opportunity to buy in at $8, $9, $7? Well, according to right now, yes, it was. Even though it's had that 50% drop, it was a good time to buy in then. Now, is it a good time to buy at the all-time high? Probably not. So that is why I have been looking at Hex, especially the last couple of days, because if I look at the chart of Hex, I look at it and I'm very interested because I believe that Hex is going to go up from where it is now, and I didn't want to buy at the all-time high. So now to me is a very, very interesting time to look at purchasing Hex. We've just gone over that cliff of being at its all-time high. We've just dropped a 30% drop or whatever. So to me, that is, and if you look at how it's performed recently, I would imagine now it's going to bounce within this window, and then it's going to have either a big drop off after big payday, and then it's going to slowly climb back up. So bearing in mind as well that whenever you buy in with Hex, you can stake it and just earn interest. So you can just ride the storm out and just be earning more and more Hex all the time. Even if the price drops 70%, it doesn't matter. To me, my Hex is locked up in here. So if the price, you'll notice on this website as well, there's no reference to US dollars at all. It never states like, oh, it's worth this much, and you know, on that hex.live it does, it has it under here, but this is a website that some other community member developed. It wasn't part of the original Hex founder team. There's no mention here of how much Hex is worth. You just literally have how much Hex you're accumulating. So if you can ride out that storm of whenever there's a drop in price, I think now is a good time to buy into Hex. And the point I was just trying to make earlier is that if you invest after the big payday, so let's just say you buy in and there's no more referral bonuses, there's no more big payday, there's no more longer pays better and all that sort of stuff, well, then you've just got the interest rate. So then you're going to be investing, and then you have to hope that it doesn't drop more than that interest rate, otherwise you've lost net overall. And you've got nothing to cushion that. So if Bitcoin drops 50% and all the other altcoins drop 50% like they do, then if you're in Hex, yours will probably go down 50% as well. But there's nothing to cushion that. At the moment, if you invest today, there's going to be this big payday, which is offering people, you know, in some cases, depending on how much you stake and for how long, you're actually going to be receiving potentially double the amount of Hex that you put into it. So if the price does drop 70%, well, you received 50% more of the token. So that's cushioned that blow. And then if you can ride it out and wait for that curve to come back up, well, then you're in a great position, because now the price has gone back to where it was or got close to it, but you've ended up with double the amount of assets. So that's the point I'm trying to make. You've got like a cushion there with the big payday, whereas after the big payday there is no cushion. There isn't any other big payday coming up between now and then. So I think now is, if you're going to invest in Hex, you either do it within the next week or two, or you don't do it at all, or unless you just want to earn the interest. But now's the best time to invest. That's my personal opinion, not financial advice. Please don't shoot me. I've seen a couple people comment saying, Glenn, I've seen the price of Hex going up, I'm going to put all my life savings into it. And I say, don't be stupid. It's a very volatile time. These are just my opinions. I can't decide or judge what the whole market does and what everyone does with their tokens once they receive it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting times. I'm going to be here to report on it, but I can confidently say at this point in time, as of November the 8th, 2020, in the whole of 2020, Hex has been my best performing asset. If you have an asset that you think has beaten Hex or don't perform better than Hex, I'd love to hear from you, because I'd love to know what it was. Please comment down below, or send me a message or comment, tag me on a tweet on Twitter at BitGlen, or you can join the Team BitGlen group chat, which is at Team BitGlen on Telegram. And don't forget to smash this like up, and also click subscribe if you're new to this channel. If you do want to get involved in Hex, you can either buy from one of the exchanges that it's now listed on, or you can actually use the Uniswap platform. Some of you out there still are a bit like, oh, I don't like MetaMask, I don't understand Uniswap. When I was trying to do my Ether Homes project, it surprised me how many people were like, I haven't got MetaMask, or I don't know how to use it. MetaMask is now available on iOS, Android. I use it all the time. It's probably one of the best projects out there, or best wallets at least anyway. But some of you really don't like it. Now, if you don't, you can send Ethereum to the transform lobby. So a link to this page is in the description down below. If you send Ethereum into the lobby at the end of the day, so you see this one's got 8 hours and 23 minutes left, there will be a payout for every single person that invests. You can see some days there's more, some days there's less. Ideally, you want it on a day where there's less. Normally, the ones where it's less is where Hex has had a drop in valuation in price. So ideally, what you want to do is invest when the price is lower, like it is right now. Get a bigger percentage of the pie, which is released every day, and then you will receive that in your Hex wallet. It has to be an ERC20 wallet. If you do use my link and send Ethereum into this, you receive a bonus for doing so. I believe it's something in the region of 10 to 20%. I can't remember what it is now. If you use the link in the description, when you deposit Ethereum into here, let's say you was entitled to get, I don't know, here we can see here for every Ethereum that you deposited into the system, you would end up with 35,000 Hex. Well, if you use someone's link, it doesn't just have to be mine, but if you use my link in the description down below, instead of receiving that 35,000, you would end up with an extra 10%. You would actually end up with 39,000 off the top of my head, just quickly. So you would end up with more Hex. But just as a disclaimer, I also receive a bonus from Hex as well, from the coins that are minted every single day. So just bear that in mind before you make your purchasing decision. But that's really it, guys. I can't really big up Hex enough, really. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know some of you out there absolutely despise Hex with a passion, but that's fine. I love to hear everyone's opinion, and if someone brings some sort of evidence or something to me that I can share with the rest of the world through my YouTube channel, I'd love to hear from you. But as of yet, Hex does everything that it said it would do from day one, which is thumbs up to the Hex community team. That's it from me, guys. I'll see you on the next video, and I'll catch you soon. Bye.